You know, we all have these huge goals, and we always think that massive success requires some kind of massive action. But what if the secret to getting remarkable results was the exact opposite? Well, it all starts with the incredible and almost tragic story of a man named James Clear.
Just imagine this for a second. You're in your last year of high school, a baseball game. A teammate swings a bat, it slips, and it flies right through the air and smashes you directly between the eyes. A nurse rushes over and asks you a simple question. What year is it? You answer 1998, when it's actually 2002. Then she asks your mother's name, and it takes you a full 10 seconds to remember. This quote on screen, that's the last thing James Clear remembered before his entire world just went black.
Immediately, his brain started to swell, dangerously. He had seizures, he lost the ability to do the most basic things like swallowing or even breathing on his own. So, to save his life, doctors had no choice but to put him in a medically induced coma. It was, as you can imagine, an absolute nightmare.
Now, his recovery wasn't some kind of miracle moment. No, it was this brutal, grinding process. A year after his injury, he finally got back on the baseball field, only to face the complete humiliation of being the only junior cut from the varsity team. But you know what? That setback, that became his turning point. It forced him to start small, to rebuild his life from the absolute ground up at Denison University. And 6 years later, he made an unbelievable comeback. So how on earth did he do it?
Well, he's stumbled upon this incredibly counterintuitive idea, the power of getting just 1% better. It's a concept that sounds so small, almost insignificant, right? But as we're about to see, its long-term effects are absolutely mind-blowing.
And that's exactly where the name atomic habits comes from. See, an atomic habit is a tiny change, just like a single atom. It seems totally inconsequential on its own, but it's the fundamental building block, the irreducible unit of incredible results.
And the math behind this idea is just staggering. Get this, if you get just 1% worse each day for a year, your skills have basically withered away to nothing. But if you get 1% better each day, you end up nearly 38 times better than when you started. The daily changes are tiny, almost unnoticeable, but the long-term difference, it's astronomical. That right there is the magic of compounding. But why doesn't it feel like that in the moment? Well, Clear has a great name for this, the plateau of latent potential. Think of an ice cube in a cold room. As you slowly raise the temperature from 29 degrees to 30 to 31, you don't see any change, right? The ice is still just a block of ice, but all that energy is being stored up. And then, at 32 degrees, boom, a breakthrough. Your effort wasn't wasted on those earlier degrees, it was just building potential.
So, okay, the theory is powerful, but how do we actually apply this to our own lives? Well, Clear developed a super simple, really practical framework, 4 laws for basically engineering our own behavior.
And here they are, the 4 laws. To build a good habit, you just have to make it obvious, attractive, easy, and satisfying. And if you want to break a bad one, you just do the opposite. Make it invisible, unattractive, difficult, and unsatisfying. So simple, right? All right, let's break them down real quick.
First up, law number 1, make it obvious. In Japan, railway conductors have this system called pointing and calling. They literally point at signals and call out what they see. Now, it might look a little silly, but by doing that, they make a non-conscious habit totally conscious. It raises their awareness and has slashed arrows by 30%. You just can't act on a cue you don't even notice.
Second, you got to make it attractive. Our brains are hardwired to chase rewards and good feelings. So a brilliant strategy here is something called temptation bundling. You link an action you need to do with an action you want to do. For example, you only let yourself watch your favorite Netflix show while you're on the exercise bike. The craving to watch the show actually pulls the habit of exercising right along with it. Third, and this one is a game changer, make it easy. We are all wired to follow the path of least resistance. The 2-minute rule is perfect for this. You take any new habit you want to start and scale it down until it takes less than 2 minutes. So instead of read a chapter before bed, the new habit is just read 1 page. The goal isn't to change the world overnight. The goal is to master the art of showing up. The rest will follow.
And finally, number 4, make it satisfying. The thing about our brains is we love immediate gratification. For these long-term habits, you have to find a way to create a feeling of instant success. Take the paperclip strategy. You start with 2 jars. One's full of paper clips, the other's empty. And every single time you make a sales call, you just move 1 paperclip over. That simple physical action gives you a visual hit of progress, and it makes the habit instantly satisfying. Okay, so we have this powerful 4-step framework. It's awesome. But this is where the book takes a turn and reveals its most profound idea. Is this whole thing really just about checking off boxes and hitting targets?
And that brings us to the biggest idea in the whole book. The real purpose of habits isn't to have something, it's to become someone. Every single time you practice one of these tiny habits, you are casting a vote for the type of person you want to be.
I mean, just look at the difference here. An outcome-based approach says, I want to run a marathon. But an identity-based approach says, I want to become a runner. One is a temporary finish line, right? The other, that's a lasting change in who you actually are. The goal isn't the event, it's the identity.
So, true, lasting behavior change is identity change. You don't start with the goal. You start by asking yourself, who is the type of person that I want to become? And then you prove it to yourself with these small, consistent wins. Every action becomes evidence that you are becoming that person.
And this brings us right back to where we started, to James Clear's incredible journey. He didn't just recover, he completely transformed himself using these very principles.
The transformation was just astonishing. The very same person who was cut from his high school team, who was depressed and struggling, just a few years later became the top male athlete at his entire university and an academic All-American. He didn't focus on some big, flashy goal. No, he focused on becoming the type of person who studies every day, who never misses a workout, who keeps his room tidy.
And this right here is maybe the most important takeaway of all. His comeback wasn't a Hollywood movie moment. It was the slow, steady, compounding result of his atomic habits. It was a long series of small wins and tiny breakthroughs that, over years, led to a truly remarkable result.
So, that leaves all of us with one final question. I want you to forget about your goals for just a moment, and instead, think about who you want to be. And then ask yourself, what tiny atomic action can I take today to cast the very first vote for that new identity?